There comes a moment in every life when the ground crumbles beneath us, when what we built collapses, when what we dreamed dissolves. And in the cold silence that follows, the question remains, not of what has fallen, but of what still stands. Failure is not a stranger. It is the shadow cast by effort, the twin of ambition. But what we have been taught to fear, we must now learn to face, not with bitterness, not with shame, but with the calm resolve of one who knows that even in ruin there is instruction, that loss does not break the worthy, it awakens them. The world will not stop for your tears. The seasons will not wait for your recovery. But within you lies something older than time itself, the power to endure, the power to transform pain, the power to fall forward. We are not here to lament what went wrong. We are here to rise, slowly and with dignity, from the ashes of our own undoing. Not because we are immune to failure, but because we have learned its secret. It does not destroy, it reveals. Fire tests gold. Adversity tests the brave, wrote Seneca, and he was right. It is not in comfort that we are made whole. It is not in success that our character is shaped. It is when everything falls apart, when the path is dark and the burden heavy, that we discover what we truly are. Let others chase ease. Let others flinch at pain. We choose the harder road, not because we love suffering, but because we know it polishes the soul like a blade across whetstone. And every failure we survive becomes a line carved into our being, a reminder that we have passed through fire and come out tempered. The Stoic does not avoid the blow. The Stoic meets it, absorbs it, and transforms it. The fall is not the end. It is the beginning of something deeper, a refinement of the will, a distillation of purpose. For it is only when we lose the illusion of control that we begin to practice real control, the mastery of ourselves. You do not control the outcome. You never did. You control your response, your interpretation, your willingness to see in misfortune a hidden path, in defeat a deeper lesson. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." These are not the words of a man untouched by suffering. These are the words of an emperor who buried children, led armies, and bore the loneliness of absolute responsibility. And yet, in all of it, he remained rooted, like a tree in winter, unmoved by the storms. So must we be. When you fall, fall with awareness. Fall like the tree that does not resist the wind, but bends with it, knowing it will rise again. Fall not in despair, but with eyes open, arms steady, heart prepared to carry the weight of what must be learned. There is no shame in falling. The shame is only in refusing to rise. And rising does not mean returning to where you were. It means becoming something new. Let the fall be your furnace. Let it burn away your arrogance, your expectation, your fear. Let it leave only what is essential: courage, discipline, clarity. A Stoic does not flinch. A Stoic does not crumble. A Stoic uses every defeat as fuel. We are not defined by how many times we avoid falling. We are defined by how many times we stand up with grace stronger than before. You will not avoid disappointment, but you can meet it with dignity. You will not outrun hardship, but you can walk through it with unwavering calm. What matters is not that you are struck down, but that you do not remain there, that you see even failure as a call, not to retreat, but to advance, to fall forward. Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And this is the root of all power. You are not a victim, not a fate, nor a fortune. You are the steward of your mind. You are the commander of your thoughts. And in that alone lies your invincibility. They may take your title, your wealth, your peace, but they cannot touch the core of who you are, unless you hand it over willingly. So do not betray yourself by giving in to bitterness. Do not hand your soul to resentment. Rise with silence if you must, but rise with resolve. There is a discipline in falling well. It is the art of turning backward steps into forward motion. It is the refusal to let pain define the story. And this is not denial. It is not toxic optimism. It is a sober acknowledgement that we are not here to be coddled by life. We are here to become unshakable within it. Let others seek comfort. You seek clarity. Let others numb the pain. You embrace it as a messenger, a teacher, a guide, pointing to the places still weak, still unformed. And from that place you rebuild, not with haste, but with intention, not for applause, but for mastery. To live well is to fall often and to rise wiser each time. This is the hidden contract of the strong. We do not ask for an easier life. We ask for the strength to meet the one we are given. Because strength does not come from success. It comes from standing upright after the fall, from the quiet morning after the long night, from the breath we take in the middle of chaos that says, I will not be moved. So let the world throw its worst. Let failure come. Let plans unravel. The Stoic does not pray for outcomes. The Stoic prepares for everything. And in that preparation, there is peace. Fall forward, not away from life, but deeper into it. Not into despair, but into strength. Fall forward, not as one defeated, but as one reborn in the forge of adversity. Because you are not just enduring the fire, you are becoming it. Each time you stumble, each time you are brought to your knees by life, you are being shaped. Not punished, not rejected, shaped. Just as the sculptor chips away at stone, removing what is not needed, life removes what is false in you, the illusions, the dependencies, the excuses. And what remains, if you allow it, is only what is essential, only what is strong, only what can endure. The Stoics never claimed that pain was good, but they knew that pain could be useful. There is a difference. You do not need to celebrate your suffering, but you must learn to use it. Because while most people fear pain as if it were an enemy, the one who trains their mind sees it differently. They see pain as an invitation to mastery. To fall forward is to become your own teacher in moments of hardship. It is to ask not, why did this happen to me, but what am I being called to become through this? Seneca once said, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body.
He did not say this from comfort. He was exiled, betrayed, and ultimately forced to take his own life. And yet, through it all, he clung to reason, to calm, to discipline, not because it guaranteed an escape from pain, but because it ensured he remained free within it. What a tragedy it would be to suffer for nothing! What a waste to endure pain and learn nothing from it! So, if you must fall, and you must, then fall with your eyes open. Do not let the bitterness of loss close you off from the truth hidden inside it. Life does not break you to mock you. Life breaks you to awaken you. When the path falls apart, that is when your real education begins. Not the kind learned in books, but the kind etched into your soul. The kind earned by losing what you thought you needed and discovering you never needed it at all. This is how we become unshakable, not by avoiding suffering, but by walking through it, slowly, with discipline and grace. You do not need to be fearless. You need only to remain committed. Committed to your character, committed to your values, committed to the inner citadel that nothing external can reach.
The world will try to define you by your failures, but you know better. You know that the fall is not your identity. It is your turning point. You may not control the moment when everything collapses, but you control what you build next. You will rise again, not as who you were, but as who you were meant to become. This is the Stoic path. Not glamorous, not easy, but real, solid, enduring. The kind of strength that does not depend on applause. The kind of peace that does not vanish when the storm arrives. Because the truth is, the storm is always coming. The storm is always near. And the only real refuge is the fortress you build inside. Do not seek a life without failure. Seek a mind that is not broken by it. This is why we practice restraint, why we examine our judgments, why we discipline our emotions, not because we are cold, but because we know that clarity in the midst of chaos is the highest power a human being can attain. You cannot stop the waves, but you can train yourself to stand tall in the tide. Even now, in this very moment, you are being tested, not by fate, but by your own mind, by the question that failure always asks. Who are you now that everything has changed? And your answer is not found in words. It is found in what you choose next. Will you retreat into bitterness? Or will you rise into courage? Will you wait for life to go your way? Or will you decide to move forward regardless? Remember, we are not spectators of this life. We are its participants. We do not float, we steer. And if the wind turns against us, then we adjust the sails, not the course. There is power in that quiet defiance, in refusing to let outer events define the inner self. That is the foundation of Stoic resilience, not the elimination of hardship, but the transmutation of hardship into growth. And this is not theory. It is practice. It is real. It is lived, breath by breath, trial by trial. Every time you hold your ground when everything in you wants to flee, this is Stoicism in action. Every time you silence the voice of panic and listen instead for the voice of reason, this is the way. Every time you fall and refuse to curse the ground beneath you,
and instead use it as the floor on which to rise, this is falling forward.
It is not glamorous. It is not always visible to the world. But it is the most noble act of all, to rebuild yourself again and again, without resentment, without complaint, and without surrender. Because you are not the pain you feel. You are the will that survives it. You are not what has happened to you. You are what you choose to become in response. And even now, in the quiet between failures, you are being invited to decide. Will you become bitter, or will you become better? Let the world collapse if it must. Let the plans dissolve. You were not born to be held up by comfort. You were born to be carried forward by strength. Fall forward, and in doing so, rise into the person only hardship could have created. Do not ask for the path to be smooth. Ask instead for legs strong enough to walk it. The Stoic does not pray for a lighter burden, but for a stronger back, not because they are immune to pain, but because they understand its place. Pain is not the enemy. Comfort is, because comfort lulls the soul to sleep. It flatters you with illusions of safety. But hardship wakes you up. And awakening is the beginning of power. You do not grow in still waters. You grow in the storm. You grow in the silence after the loss, in the stillness after the collapse. You grow not when everything is going right, but when everything is falling apart, and still you choose to act with virtue. That is the core of Stoicism. Not indifference, but clarity. Not coldness, but composure. A deliberate mind, undisturbed by the noise of fortune. That is what you are building. That is what failure reveals. You cannot fake discipline when you are on the ground. You cannot pretend to be strong when everything inside you wants to quit. That is where the truth is exposed. Not in victory, but in defeat. Not in success, but in setback. Do you keep your word when it's hard? Do you stay your course when no one applauds? Do you act with reason even when your emotions scream? These are the questions that shape your character. These are the trials that sculpt the soul. The greater the difficulty, said Epictetus, the more glory in surmounting it. Not the glory of public triumph, but the quiet glory of private mastery. The kind of glory that no one may ever see, but that you feel every time you choose self-command over self-pity. So don't fear failure. Fear what happens if you refuse to learn from it. That is the real tragedy. Not that we fall, but that we fall into resentment, into blame, into victimhood. And once there, we lose the one thing that can never be taken from us, our agency. Never forget this. Your mind is your last line of freedom. It cannot be taken. It can only be surrendered. And if you surrender it, you lose everything. But if you guard it, if you train it, then even as the world collapses, you will remain unbroken. You do not control events, but you always control how you interpret them. This is not optimism. This is discipline. It is the fierce refusal to let meaning be dictated by fortune. A job lost is not the end. A betrayal is not the end. A failure is not the end. They are only moments,
and you are greater than any moment. Seneca reminds us, a setback has often cleared the way. Many things have fallen only to rise to more exalted heights. But this rising is not automatic. It is earned. It is chosen. It requires your will. You must choose to rise, even while you're still hurting, even while you're still doubting, even when nothing around you has changed. That is the moment. That is the pivot. That is the place where the weak give in, and the strong dig deep. And the only difference between them is the inner voice they obey. So examine your inner voice. Is it building you up or tearing you down? Is it rooted in reason or in fear, in truth or in ego? Because failure is loud, but wisdom is quiet. You must silence the noise to hear what life is trying to teach you. And it will teach you. It will teach you that your worth is not measured by outcome, but by effort. That real strength is not about dominating others, but mastering yourself. That falling is not shameful, but staying down without reflection is. Fall forward, always forward, because the fall is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of the chapter where you learn what you are truly made of. And what are you made of? You are made of reason, of will, of conscience. You are made of the same substance that carried Marcus Aurelius through war, plague, and betrayal. The same substance that gave Epictetus freedom even in chains. The same substance that allowed Seneca to meet death with composure. You are not a victim of fate. You are the heir of a tradition that chooses virtue over despair.
And virtue is always possible, no matter the conditions. That is why the Stoic is never powerless, because the Stoic never gives up what is theirs to command, their thoughts, their choices, their character. Even if all else is taken, these remain. And if you hold to them, then no failure can destroy you. It can only refine you. Let others chase applause. Let them seek ease. You are here for something deeper. You are here to be tested. You are here to grow. You are here to fall forward, not just once, but as many times as life requires. Because this is how resilience is forged, not in the absence of failure, but in the courage to face it without flinching. You will fall, but you will not break. You will bleed, but you will not curse the blade. You will struggle, but you will rise, not in spite of the pain, but because of it. This is your path, and you are not walking it alone. All who choose the way of the disciplined mind are your brothers and sisters, across time, across cultures, across suffering. We walk together, not because the world is easy, but because we are willing to become strong enough for the world as it is. So when you fall, remember this. You are not a mistake. You are not ruined. You are not lost. You are becoming. And becoming is painful. Becoming is humbling. But becoming is worth everything. So breathe, stand, and walk again. Fall forward, not because it's easy, but because the alternative is stagnation. There is no standing still on the path of virtue. Either you advance or you regress. Either you become stronger or weaker. And every moment you choose not to act with courage, you invite cowardice to fill the space. The Stoics never promised comfort. They promised clarity. And that clarity is this: you are not here to be kept safe.
You are here to become strong. You are not here to have your feelings protected. You are here to master them. You are not here to win the approval of others. You are here to earn the respect of your own conscience. The moment you begin to live by these truths, failure loses its sting. Not because it stops hurting, but because you understand its purpose. It is a tool, a teacher, a necessary companion on the journey of self-mastery. When you see clearly, you begin to see failure as a kind of fire, a fire that burns away the unnecessary, the ego, the illusion, the attachment. And what remains, if you let it burn long enough, is what is real, what is true, what is yours by right of character, not circumstance. You are not the image others hold of you. You are not the roles you've played. You are not your mistakes. You are your discipline. You are your ability to return to your principles even when the world tempts you to abandon them. You are your will to rise. So rise. Rise with the knowledge that pain is temporary, but virtue is eternal. That what wounds you today may shape your wisdom tomorrow, if you refuse to be consumed by resentment. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This is not a metaphor. It is a method. You must train yourself to welcome obstacles, not as curses, but as calls to greatness. Each one is a summons, a demand, a question. Will you collapse, or will you choose to grow? Answer with your actions, not your words. Answer by staying calm when others panic, by standing firm when others flee, by continuing forward when others stop to curse the path. Do not ask for understanding from those who do not walk your path. Do not seek validation from those who live for ease. Their opinions are irrelevant to the soul that has chosen the hard road. And make no mistake, it is the hard road, but it is the only one that leads anywhere worth going. On this road, you will meet defeat.
Again and again. But the defeat will not be final unless you allow it. You can turn every failure into fuel. You can turn every fall into foundation. But only if you remain committed to the work, the daily, silent, unseen work of building yourself from the inside out. Not through performance, but through practice. Not through noise, but through stillness. The Stoics understood this. Outer chaos can be met with inner order, but only if the mind is trained, only if the soul is anchored in reason, not ruled by impulse. So ask yourself daily, what am I practicing? Am I practicing patience or irritation? Am I practicing courage or avoidance? Am I practicing gratitude or complaint? Because whatever you practice, you become. And if you want to meet failure with composure, you must begin long before it arrives. Train now. Train your mind to see opportunity in adversity. Train your heart to endure what it does not prefer. Train your soul to find stillness even as the world roars. This is not denial. It is discipline. The Stoic does not pretend things are better than they are, but they also do not give suffering more power than it deserves. They do not romanticize pain, but they do respect its role in the shaping of character. There is a dignity in endurance. There is honor in persistence. There is a sacred strength in continuing on when no one sees, no one praises, and no one helps.
That is the moment where you forge identity. Not the surface-level identity of titles or achievements, but the deeper identity of someone who cannot be bought, cannot be broken, and cannot be turned against themselves. Fall forward, even when it's slow, even when it's painful, even when you're full of doubt. Because doubt is not disqualification. It is the friction that precedes clarity. And clarity comes not when the world calms down, but when your soul stops trying to control what it never could. You were never promised control over outcomes, but you were granted absolute dominion over your responses. Guard that dominion like a fortress. Let others chase fortune. Let others seek control. You focus on command, self-command. Because in the end, it is not failure that ruins people. It is their response to it, their interpretation, their story. You must change the story. You must say, "This ruined me," and start saying, "This revealed me." You must think, "I lost everything," and start asking, "What am I now free to rebuild?" The power is always in the framing, and the framing is always in your hands. No matter what happens around you, you can choose to see it as training, not punishment, training. Life is conditioning you for something greater, but only if you're willing to endure the process. Only if you stop begging for ease and start building capacity. Only if you stop asking, "Why me?" and start declaring, "Try me." This is the Stoic way, not detached, but deliberate, not hardened, but focused, not passive, but composed. And yes, you will fail, you will fall, you will suffer, but you will also rise again and again until the very act of rising becomes your nature. And that, more than any success, more than any praise, is what defines the powerful soul. They rise every time. Rise not with fury, but with focus. Rise not in haste, but with purpose. Rise not to prove anyone wrong, but to prove yourself right. Because the Stoic understands that vengeance is hollow, that trying to win out of spite is just another chain, just another distraction from the path. Let others waste their lives in the pursuit of petty victories. You are after something
greater: virtue, self-mastery, inner peace. And that peace is not given, it is earned, one moment at a time. You earn it when you choose to remain steady while the world trembles. You earn it when you speak with restraint, when you act with intention, when you refuse to become a mirror of the chaos around you. Seneca once wrote, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that things are difficult." To fall forward is to dare, to take the hard step, not in ignorance of the risk, but in full awareness of it, to face the potential for pain and loss and failure, and still say, "I will go forward." Because even if I fall into a lesson. Even if I lose only illusions. Even if I suffer in the service of something greater than comfort. This is not romanticism. This is reality sharpened by reason. This is a soul that no longer begs the world to be fair, because it has learned to be just within itself. The Stoic sees suffering not as a curse, but as part of the equation of life. Not something to eliminate, but something to work with. Like fire for the blacksmith, or friction for the blade, resistance is necessary for refinement. So stop running from the hard things. They are not your enemy. They are your apprenticeship. Let them teach you. Let failure teach you where your pride was too loud. Let pain teach you where your attachments were too tight. Let betrayal teach you the value of discernment. Let every misstep teach you humility. But never let it teach you helplessness. Because no Stoic ever lived waiting for the world to change. They changed themselves, and in doing so, altered the course of history, not by force, but by example, not by loud declarations, but by quiet mastery of the self. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." This is the cost of growth, the willingness to stumble in public, the patience to build without applause, the resilience to persist without promise of reward. You will fall. Others will laugh. They will misunderstand your silence, your discipline, your strange refusal to chase what they chase. Let them. You are not here to win their favor. You are here to forge your soul. And forging takes heat. It takes time. It takes blows from every side. But the blade that breaks was not tempered correctly. You must embrace the fire as your training ground, not your tomb. Every challenge, every fall, every loss, it is shaping you, not as the world shapes with chaos, but as the craftsman shapes with precision. Each moment is a chisel. Let it cut away what is unnecessary. Your fear, your vanity, your impatience, your need for external validation. These are not assets. They are anchors. They keep you from rising. And rising is your duty. Not because you must succeed in the eyes of others, but because you must answer to yourself. There is no greater betrayal than to abandon your own potential. The world will tell you to avoid pain, to escape hardship, to protect your image. But the Stoic sees these as chains disguised as comforts. True freedom is not the absence of hardship. It is the presence of strength. So build strength. When you are hurt, respond with forgiveness. When you are rejected, respond with dignity. When you are ignored, respond with perseverance. When you are doubted, respond with work. When you are mocked, respond with silence. When you are broken, respond with rebuilding. This is the practice. This is the path. Not once, but every day, over and over, until virtue becomes your reflex, not just your intention. The ancient philosophers did not write in comfort. Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations while burdened with war, betrayal, illness, and death. Seneca penned his letters while facing exile, political chaos, and eventually his own execution. Epictetus taught from a small room, having lived as a slave with a crippled body. But none of them were bitter. Because bitterness is the sign of someone who expected life to be fair. The Stoic does not expect fairness. They expect struggle, and they prepare their mind accordingly. That is the true training, not in the gym, not in the office, not on the battlefield, but in the mind. If you win there, you win everywhere. So when life pushes you down, do not just rise. Rise stronger. Rise quieter. Rise clearer. Let each setback refine your aim, not ruin your spirit. There will be days when everything feels too heavy,
when doubt clouds your vision, when nothing seems to work. These are not signs to quit. These are the signs that matter most, because how you respond now is who you truly are. In comfort, anyone can seem wise. In ease, anyone can speak calmly. But in fire, the truth emerges. And your task is to become the person who remains principled under pressure. Not perfectly, but persistently. Fall forward, rise wiser. Fall again, rise steadier. Do it 1,000 times if you must, because repetition is the forge of transformation. You are not here to be unscarred. You are here to be unshaken. And the only way to reach that state is to embrace the process fully, to fall with awareness, to fail with courage, to walk through fire with your integrity intact. Do not run from the test. The test is what purifies. The Stoics taught that fortune is fickle, but virtue is forever. So cling not to the things that pass, but to the strength that endures. You have that strength, not in the future, not when things go your way, right now, in this breath, in this choice, in this decision to fall forward, no matter how many times you've been knocked back. This is your power, your practice, your path. And you are not alone. We walk it together, not as those who have arrived, but as those who have committed, not as those who never fall, but as those who refuse to stay down. Look closely at your scars. Do not hide them. Do not apologize for them. They are not proof of weakness. They are the signatures of your survival. They are evidence that you met pain face to face and did not surrender. There is a quiet nobility in the soul that has endured suffering and still chooses to live with principle. This is the Stoic method, not retreat, not avoidance, but endurance, with grace. What happens to the one who falls, but holds to virtue? They do not become hardened. They become sharpened. Because character is not born in comfort, it is forged in conflict. No great life was built on uninterrupted ease. The ancients knew this. They lived in a world of constant loss, plague, war, political betrayal, family torn apart, and yet they did not crumble. They contemplated their suffering. They gave it form. They studied it like students before a master. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "To love only what happens, what was destined, no greater harmony." It sounds strange to love what hurts, but this is not masochism. It is mastery. To accept fate, not with blind surrender, but with full awareness and full dignity. That is the highest form of freedom. It means you do not resent the storm. You sail through it with skill. You do not curse the fire. You become flame-resistant. You do not tremble at death. You prepare for it through every moment you truly live. To fall forward is to take back power from the external world and root it within.
Because as long as you need your environment to be gentle, you will never be strong. But if you can face the sharpness of life with clarity, if you can keep your principles when things fall apart, then you will carry your power with you no matter the chaos outside. Ask yourself, what are you truly afraid of? Embarrassment? Failure? Being misunderstood? These are shadows. Your task is not to eliminate fear, but to move forward despite it, to act in accordance with reason, not in obedience to emotion. You may feel afraid, but you are not your fear. You may feel exhausted, but you are not your fatigue. You may feel like quitting, but your will is greater than your feelings. That is what separates the Stoic from the restless crowd. They do not chase comfort, they chase discipline. Not because they are cold, but because they are awake. And they know that every difficulty is a classroom. You lost something? Good. Now learn detachment. You were betrayed? Good. Now learn discernment. You were passed over? Good. Now learn patience. You failed publicly? Good. Now learn humility. You have been broken? Good. Now learn how to rebuild, not as you were, but as something better. Every failure gives you a choice: descend into bitterness or ascend into wisdom. Most people take the descent. It's easy, it's loud, it feels righteous, but it is empty. To fall forward means to take the harder route, to pause before reacting, to ask not why me, but what can I learn? Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." So treat each failure as weight, not a burden, but a barbell. And your soul must lift it, again and again, until your inner posture becomes unshakable. No one will do it for you, not your family, not your friends, not the world. They can support you, but the work, the deep, painful, beautiful inner work, must be yours alone. This is why the Stoics spent so much time in reflection. They knew that the real battle is always internal. Your anger? Internal. Your envy? Internal. Your fear? Internal. Your peace? Internal. What happens to you matters far less than what you do with it. So when the world fails you, remember this: it was never meant to carry your hopes. That is your job: to stand up, to steady yourself, to direct your mind. Because your mind is the only thing truly within your control. It is not perfect, it will stumble, it will falter, but it is trainable, like a muscle, like a flame. And every trial is a chance to temper it. You must become your own guardian, your own governor, your own teacher. And in time, you will see that the pain that once broke you now builds you. The rejection that once shaped your confidence now sharpens your standards. The silence that once felt like abandonment now becomes your sanctuary. The failure that once drowned you now becomes your foundation. You begin to see differently. Where others see ruin, you see renewal. Where others see punishment, you see instruction. Where others see delay, you see preparation. Where others see defeat, you refinement. This is not delusion, it is discipline. To train the mind to look deeper, to reject the first interpretation of hardship, to uncover the lesson hidden beneath the suffering. That is the Stoic way. And it is not easy, but it is yours to walk. Let others live on impulse. Let others seek applause. Let others chase the illusion of control. You walk the higher path. And when you fall, and you will fall, do not flinch, do not curse, do not run. Breathe, observe, learn, rise. There is no shame in falling, only in refusing to rise, only in wasting the opportunity to grow. Every moment, the choice is yours: to fall back or to fall forward, to crumble or to climb, to curse the pain or to carry it with purpose. And when you carry it long enough, you will find something unexpected: peace. Not the peace of a life untouched by suffering, but the peace of a soul untouched by chaos. Because you have mastered the one thing that truly matters: yourself. Peace, true peace, is not soft. It is not fragile. It is not the absence of hardship. It is the presence of unshakable principle in the midst of it. The Stoic is not calm because life is easy, but because their foundation does not depend on ease. This is the result of inner work: quiet, invisible, relentless inner work. No one applauds it, no one sees it, but it is there, growing, deepening, solidifying like the roots of an ancient oak beneath the storm. And when the winds rise, when the sky darkens, when everything external begins to collapse, that is when the invisible becomes visible. That is when you see who has done the inner work and who has not. We must not wait for the storm to begin the practice. The time is now. Train the mind while the seas are calm, so that when the tempest comes, you do not drown in emotion. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This is not a slogan. This is not empty comfort. This is a razor-sharp truth, one that slices through the fog of modern excuses. You are not your past. You are not your circumstances. You are not your title, your appearance, your status, your loss. You are your response. And in every failure, in every moment when things do not go your way, you are given the power to choose. Will you respond like a victim or like a philosopher? Do you let failure define you or refine you? Fall forward. Let your setbacks become strategies. Let your heartbreak become insight. Let your humiliation become humility. Let your collapse become construction. You must reframe everything, not through fantasy, but through reason, through the lens of a trained mind. You didn't get the job? Perhaps it would have corrupted your focus. You were betrayed by someone close. Perhaps that opened your eyes to misplaced trust. You lost what you thought you needed. Perhaps now you'll discover what you truly need. Life is always speaking, but it does not scream. It whispers. And only the quiet mind will hear it. So go into silence. Go into stillness, not as an escape, but as a sharpening.
Be still, not passive. Be quiet, not numb. Let the world rage outside. You, the true you, must remain anchored. This is how power is born, not in dominating others, but in commanding yourself. And from that self-command, a new type of clarity emerges. You begin to separate what is within your control from what is not. You begin to let go of what was never yours to begin with: reputation, approval, ease. And you begin to grasp the things that no one can take from you: your integrity, your discipline, your virtue. Virtue, that old word, too often forgotten, too often dismissed. But for the Stoic, it is everything. To act justly, to speak truthfully, to think clearly, to live courageously. These are not decorative values. They are weapons of the soul. And when wielded with consistency, They turn any fall into forward motion. Yes, the fall may hurt deeply. Yes, you may cry. You may grieve. You may doubt. But do not stay there. Rise through it. You are not here to be comfortable. You are here to become capable. Capable of facing rejection without self-loathing. Capable of hearing criticism without collapse. Capable of walking alone without losing direction. Capable of carrying pain without spreading it. This is the architecture of a Stoic life. Not glamorous, not dramatic, but deeply free. You do not need to prove anything. You do not need to be admired. You need only to be aligned with what is true, what is right, what enduring. You don't fall to be noticed. You fall to rise stronger. And when you rise, do not announce it. Let your actions reveal your growth. Let your silence speak volumes. Let your consistency do the talking. Because the Stoic understands, praise and blame are both illusions. They are the wind. You, the mountain. Do not bend to the temporary. You were not made to be swayed by every failure, every disappointment, every unfulfilled desire. You were made to stand, steadfast, sober, awake. You were made to rise again and again and again, until even your falls become acts of strength. And slowly, over time, a new identity emerges. Not the one the world gave you, not the one failure tried to destroy, but the one forged by choice, by perseverance, by practice, by pain transmuted into wisdom. No one can hand you this. No one can shortcut it for you. You must earn it, day by day, decision by decision. This is the Stoic path. It is not loud. It is not glamorous. It is not fast. But it is real. And once you walk it, you no longer fear the fall, because you have learned, finally, deeply, that every fall is the forge. And in that forge, the weak parts are burned away, and what remains is pure, steady, unbreakable. You, the journey toward this unbreakable self, is a path walked by many, yet mastered by few. It requires a quiet vigilance, a relentless discipline, and a steadfast refusal to surrender to despair. This is not a journey for the faint-hearted, but for those who understand that true power arises not from the avoidance of pain, but from the mastery of it. Consider the words of Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire, yet never allowed his spirit to be ruled by circumstance. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Every obstacle, every failure, every setback is not a wall, but a gateway. It invites us to shift our perspective, to find the hidden lesson, to forge a new path forward. When life strips away what we thought was essential, we are forced to confront a deeper truth, that our worth and our power do not reside in external things, but within. This internal fortress, built with the bricks of reason and the mortar of virtue, cannot be destroyed by fortune's whims. No loss, no betrayal, no disappointment can breach it unless we invite them in through surrender and self-pity. This fortress is constructed one thought at a time, It is the mindful refusal to let negative emotions dominate. Anger, envy, fear, they are all flames that threaten to consume the soul. Yet they can be extinguished by reason, by reflection, and by the conscious choice to respond differently. Epictetus reminds us, no man is free who is not master of himself. To fall forward is to reclaim freedom, not despite failure, but through it. It is to recognize that the external world is beyond control, but the mind, our internal citadel, is ours to govern. The practice of falling forward demands patience. Change is not immediate. The sting of failure lingers. The temptation to despair whispers incessantly. Yet the Stoic does not yield to these voices. Instead, they listen deeply, learn wisely, and act decisively. Within every failure lies a lesson, often hidden beneath layers of pain and confusion. To uncover it requires courage, the courage to face one's own shortcomings without excuse or denial. This radical honesty is not a defeat, but a victory. Seneca counseled, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." Each failure is an ending, but also a seedbed for a new start. The moment of falling is not final, it is transformative. It is the moment when old patterns are shed and new ones take root. This transformation is fueled by a growing awareness that we are more than our circumstances. We are the directors of our minds, the authors of our character. Even when the world collapses, the soul has the power to rebuild, stronger and wiser. In this rebuilding, consistency is key. Small acts of courage, discipline, and virtue accumulate over time, creating an unshakable foundation. Like the steady drip of water carving stone, these daily practices wear away weakness and reveal strength. To fall forward is also to embrace humility. It requires recognizing that failure is a universal human experience. No one escapes it. The difference lies not in avoiding failure, but in how we meet it, with grace, with resolve, with equanimity. This humility fosters compassion for ourselves and for others. When we understand our own struggles, we are less quick to judge and more willing to support. Our falls connect us, weaving a shared tapestry of growth and resilience. This communal aspect is vital. While the path is deeply personal, it is not solitary. We walk together, learning from each other's courage and mistakes. Together, we cultivate a culture that honors strength born of struggle, wisdom forged in adversity. As we embrace this way of being, the fear of failure diminishes. It loses its power to paralyze and instead becomes a teacher, a guide, a catalyst for growth. We learn to anticipate challenges not with dread, but with readiness, knowing that each fall is an opportunity to rise higher. Ultimately, the Stoic method for turning failure into power is a profound act of self-mastery. It calls us to live deliberately, to choose our responses with intention, and to embody resilience as a way of life. In doing so, we do not merely survive the storms of life, we transcend them. We become the calm within the chaos, the steady light in the darkness, the unyielding force that turns every fall into a step forward. The path is difficult. The demands are great, but the reward is freedom. Freedom from the tyranny of fortune, from the chains of emotion, from the illusion of helplessness.
This is the power waiting for you in every failure. Not a promise of ease, but a promise of strength. So fall forward, not in defeat, but in defiance. Not in despair, but in determination. For in each fall lies the power to rise, not as you were, but as you were meant to be. And in that rising, you reclaim the life that is yours, not given by others, but claimed through your own courage, your own discipline, your unwavering will. Stand now and walk that path with clear eyes and steady heart. For the journey ahead is long, but the strength you cultivate will carry you through every fall, every trial, every victory. This is the Stoic way, and it begins with a single step forward, even as you fall. This journey toward resilience and mastery is not a fleeting endeavor. It is a lifelong commitment. Each day presents fresh trials, new challenges designed to test the fiber of our character and the depth of our resolve. The measure of a person is not found in moments of comfort or ease, but in how they respond when everything falls apart, when the foundations they once relied on crumble, and the familiar paths disappear into uncertainty. In these moments, the ancient wisdom reminds us to anchor ourselves firmly in what is truly within our power, our thoughts, our judgments, our actions. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters, Epictetus teaches. This insight strips away the illusion that external events dictate our happiness or despair. Instead, it turns the spotlight inward, challenging us to cultivate an unshakable fortress of reason. But such a fortress is not built overnight. It requires patience, perseverance, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves. Often, failure reveals not just external misfortune, but internal weaknesses, moments of pride, impulsiveness, or neglect that led us astray. To face these honestly is a radical act of courage. It demands humility and a refusal to blame circumstance or others for our plight. Seneca, in his timeless letters, implores us to view every hardship as a teacher. Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. This perspective transforms failure from an enemy into an essential companion on the path to greatness. When we adopt this mindset, falling becomes less about defeat and more about discovery. An opportunity, exploration of the terrain beneath our feet and the limits we have yet to overcome. The process of falling forward then becomes a practice of active engagement with adversity. Instead of recoiling in pain or retreating into despair, we lean into the discomfort. We dissect our failures with clarity, seeking the precise moment where our judgment faltered or our discipline wavered. From there, we chart a course of correction, setting new intentions anchored in wisdom and virtue. In this way, resilience is forged not through avoidance, but through repeated confrontation with what shakes us most deeply. The Stoic ideal is not invulnerability, but invincibility, not the absence of hardship, but the mastery of how hardship is met and transcended. There is power in this mastery, a quiet power that does not boast or rage, but remains steady like a mountain against the storm. Marcus Aurelius counsels, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." To internalize this is to awaken to a freedom few ever taste, the freedom to choose our attitude regardless of circumstance. Yet this freedom is not license to suppress or deny our emotions. True strength recognizes the reality of pain and disappointment, but refuses to be governed by them. It is the difference between feeling anger and being controlled by it, between sorrow and surrender. The Stoic path is one of transformation, taking the raw materials of negative emotions and refining them into clarity, resolve, and insight. When you fall, remember that falling is a signal, not a sentence. It calls you to reassess, to reorient, to recommit. It asks you to step beyond victimhood and into authorship of your own story. Each stumble is a prompt to cultivate greater self-awareness and to deepen your commitment to the virtues that define a life worth living: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. This cultivation is a form of inner alchemy. Just as fire refines gold, adversity purifies the soul. But the fire's effect depends on how you engage it. Will you flinch and shield yourself, or will you open fully and allow the flames to burn away weakness and reveal your true nature? Know this: no one is exempt from failure. Every great mind, every revered leader, every resilient spirit has fallen, many times, often deeply. Their greatness lies not in having avoided failure, but in having embraced it as the soil from which their strength grew. The community of those who walk this path together is vast, stretching across time and space. Though the external world is ever-changing and uncertain, the principles of resilience and self-mastery remain constant, a shared beacon for those committed to rising beyond life's inevitable falls. Together, in shared resolve, we cultivate a mindset that transforms obstacles into opportunities, setbacks into stepping stones, and failures into foundations for future success. This shared journey requires us to be vigilant against the corrosive pull of bitterness, envy, and regret. These emotions, if left unchecked, rot the spirit and cloud the mind's clarity. Instead, we practice forgiveness, not as weakness, but liberation, releasing ourselves from the chains of resentment and opening space for growth. When bitterness tries to take hold, remember the words of Epictetus: "To accuse others for one's own misfortunes is a sign of want of education. To accuse oneself shows that one's education has begun. To accuse neither oneself nor others shows that one's education is complete." This radical acceptance of responsibility is the cornerstone of the Stoic method, not a blame game, but a call to agency. To fall forward means to carry this agency with you always, to navigate life's storms with a compass calibrated to virtue and reason. It means understanding that failure is not a detour, but an integral part of the journey itself, a process through which strength is refined and character is revealed. In embracing this path, you become a living testament to the power of resilience, a beacon for others lost in the darkness of their own trials. Your example speaks louder than words, radiating the calm confidence of one who has faced the abyss and emerged whole. The power to rise after every fall resides within you, not in luck, not in circumstance, but in your capacity to govern your mind and shape your character. This is the true mastery, the true freedom, the true victory. Stand firm in this truth and let it guide your every step. For in falling forward, you do not lose, you evolve. You do not break, you transcend. And in this transcendence, you find the strength to live fully, fiercely, and freely. Before we move forward, it is crucial to remember that the path of cultivating the spirit to fall forward, to stumble so as to rise stronger, is not an easy one. It is not meant for those who seek comfort or temporary safety. It demands courage, unwavering resolve, and an iron will to embrace failure not as an end, but as an essential lesson, a stepping stone on the road ahead. Every failure holds within it a hidden seed of strength, a kernel of growth that only the awakened can perceive. Failure, when seen through the discerning eye of wisdom, is not an enemy, but the sternest teacher. It instructs us in humility, reveals our limits, and teaches us how to adjust our mindset, attitude, and actions so we can advance. We must learn to enter the world within ourselves with calm clarity and steadfastness. This does not mean ignoring or avoiding our emotions, but recognizing, mastering, and transforming them into constructive energy. As Epictetus declared, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. These words resonate as a profound reminder. Failure itself does not harm us. Our misinterpretations and judgments about it do. How then do we nurture an inner fortress strong enough to remain unshaken by failure? The answer lies in practicing self-mastery, guided by reason, using an understanding of life's nature and constant flux as the compass for every thought and action. When we comprehend that all things are subject to change and that nothing is permanent, we cease to be shocked or broken by setbacks. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, reminded us, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." When faced with hardship or failure, do not regard it as a barrier to success, but as an opportunity to manifest your inner strength. Obstacles compel creativity, patience, and wisdom. It is in overcoming these challenges that true growth occurs. At these moments of trial, focus on what is within your power, your attitude, and your response. You cannot control the external world, nor avoid pain, loss, or failure, but you always have control over how you choose to perceive and meet these events. This is the foundation of inner strength. The true freedom lies not in external possessions, but in mastery over oneself. Inevitably, there will be times when confusion, pain, or despair arise. Yet Seneca reminds us, it is not because things are difficult that we do not dare, but because we do not dare that they are difficult. The greatest challenge is overcoming the fear within, the fear that keeps us from moving forward and facing the truth about ourselves. Each time we fall, let it be a mirror reflecting our weaknesses, misguided habits, and areas demanding improvement. This is a continual process of learning and refining, not to reach perfection, but to become more resilient and free amidst life's storms. This journey demands deep patience. Growth is not forged by rapid, forceful strikes, but by steady, persistent footsteps over time. Remember, we are not promised a life without suffering, but we are promised a soul strong enough to endure it. We cannot choose where or under what conditions we are born, but we always choose how to face and transcend them. When failure strikes, instead of sinking into despair or blame, commit yourself to understanding its causes, not to criticize yourself, but to learn and improve. Honesty and objectivity with oneself open the door to lasting transformation. Maintaining such clarity, no matter the storm, ensures we remain undefeated. True strength is not born from flashy triumphs, but from the act of rising each time we fall. Failure only becomes real defeat when we surrender, when we let it define us and erode our faith in ourselves. But when failure is accepted as an integral part of growth, it becomes the force that propels us forward. In moments of deepest loss, remember, your mind and soul can become your strongest fortress, an impregnable sanctuary no one can breach. Through vigilance and self-control, you can calmly observe the turbulence, maintaining peace and clarity within. This is the noble trait of one unconquered by fate, who knows that even in losing everything, the greatest possession remains, the freedom to choose one's attitude. To achieve this, focus on what is in your power, your present actions, your mindset toward yourself and the world, and relentless practice to strengthen your spirit. Each day, each moment offers an opportunity to forge yourself into someone better, tougher, and wiser. No one but you holds the reins of your life. The choice is not to avoid failure, but to embrace it, to rise and to transform it into the launchpad for success. When we perceive failure with calm reason and steady resolve, we uncover a marvelous power within ourselves, one that no force can strip away. Finally, let your heart remember that you are not alone on this path. You are part of an unbroken stream of resilient souls, philosophers, warriors, and ordinary yet indomitable humans. Together we walk this long road, shaping every failure into solid ground, every sorrow into wise insight, and every trial into proof of an unshakable inner strength. From this deep place within, from conscious choice and growth, a persistent light will shine, not only illuminating your own way, but guiding those who walk beside you, like a beacon in the night. This is the power of knowledge, perseverance, and courage, the power of one who knows how to fall forward and become truly undefeated. This power, the power to rise after falling, is the essence of an unbreakable spirit. It is not granted by fortune, nor inherited by birthright. It is earned through the disciplined practice of living according to reason and virtue. Every challenge faced, every failure endured, is a stone laid in the foundation of this strength. In the midst of failure, the world may whisper lies, that you are weak, that your efforts were in vain, that your worth diminishes with each setback. Yet, the greatest philosophers warn us against listening to these voices. Seneca, with unwavering clarity, reminds us that it is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult. Courage, the willingness to dare and to persist, is what transforms failure from a prison into a path. There is a profound freedom in this truth. Freedom from the tyranny of external approval, freedom from the fear of judgment, and freedom from the illusion that failure is final. Instead, failure becomes a mirror, reflecting our current state, a compass directing us toward necessary change. To walk this path requires cultivating a mindset both vigilant and compassionate. Vigilant because it demands honesty and clarity in facing one's flaws and mistakes. Compassionate because it requires patience and kindness toward oneself in the process of growth. Such compassion is not indulgence, but a recognition that progress unfolds through trial and error. The Stoics teach us to regard ourselves as works in progress, ever unfinished and always capable of improvement. This perspective frees us from the paralysis of perfectionism and the despair of self-recrimination. When failure visits, and it inevitably will, we must greet it with this balanced spirit. Rather than retreating into blame or bitterness, we pause to reflect. What did this experience reveal about my assumptions, habits, and values? How might I adjust my course without losing sight of my purpose? Purpose itself is a guiding star through the darkest nights of failure. Without it, setbacks can feel meaningless, a void of discouragement. With purpose, each fall forward gains significance as a deliberate step toward a life of meaning and integrity. Purpose is not found in external rewards or fleeting pleasures, but in the cultivation of inner excellence. It is the commitment to act justly, to speak truthfully, and to live with courage and wisdom. This commitment anchors the soul amidst the storms of life, offering a foundation no failure can shake. Moreover, it teaches us humility, the recognition that we are part of a greater whole, subject to forces beyond our control, yet responsible for our own conduct. In this humility, we find strength rather than weakness, for it liberates us from pride and despair alike. Marcus Aurelius expressed this beautifully when he wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart." Acceptance is not resignation, but an active embrace of reality, accompanied by the resolve to act virtuously within it. Through acceptance, failure loses its sting. It no longer serves as a verdict against our worth, but a fact of life to be met with reasoned action. We see the opportunity in adversity to refine our character, to sharpen our judgment, and to deepen our resilience. This process is ongoing, without finality. Each day offers new tests, new chances to fail and to rise again. The goal is not to avoid failure, but to transform our relationship with it, to fall forward with grace and strength. In doing so, we build an unshakable foundation of self-mastery. This foundation supports not only endurance through hardship, but also joy in living. For when we are free from the fear of failure, we are free to fully engage with life's possibilities. This freedom cultivates a calm confidence, not arrogance, but a quiet assurance, rooted in the knowledge that our worth is not contingent on outcomes, but on the quality of our effort and the integrity of our character. It invites us to live boldly and authentically, to pursue what truly matters without being derailed by the fear of stumbling. Failure ceases to be an enemy and becomes a companion on the journey of growth. As we continue forward, let us carry with us the words of Epictetus. Don't explain your philosophy, embody it. Let us not merely theorize about resilience and strength, but live them in our daily choices, in how we respond to failure and hardship. In this way, our lives become a testament to the power of the human spirit to endure, to learn, and to rise. We become living proof that failure is not the end, but the very soil from which greatness grows. Together, walking this path of mindful resilience, we cultivate a life of purpose, strength, and peace, undaunted by failure, empowered by it. And through this transformation, we come to embody the highest calling of our nature, to live wisely, courageously, and with unyielding grace. In every instance of failure, then, there lies a seed, a hidden opportunity cloaked in discomfort. We must train ourselves to peer beneath the surface, to see not the wound, but the lesson. This is no naive optimism, but a rigorous discipline of the mind, forged in the crucible of experience and tempered by reason. When a ship encounters a storm, it is not the calm sea that proves its mettle, but how well it weathers the tempest. So too, it is not in times of ease, but through trials that the character is revealed and refined. Let us not flinch from failure, nor recoil from setbacks, but embrace them as necessary passages on the journey of growth. Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body, wrote Seneca, reminding us that the struggle itself is not a detour, but the path. Each failure calls upon us to engage our reason, to examine where we went astray, and to resolve with greater clarity and purpose. Resilience is not an innate gift bestowed upon a select few, but a skill cultivated through persistent practice. To rise again after a fall is a conscious choice, a commitment to self-mastery that transcends fleeting emotions and external circumstance. The mind that clings to its pain, that wallows in regret or self-pity, surrenders its power. But the one who chooses to learn, who accepts what cannot be changed and channels effort into what can, transforms failure into strength. Here, the ancient wisdom offers a guiding principle: distinguish between what lies within our control and what does not. The outcome of events, the judgments of others, fortune's unpredictable shifts, all these fall outside the sovereign domain of our will. What we control, however, is our own reasoned response. When failure strikes, it is natural for anguish to arise, yet these emotions, if left unchecked, cloud our judgment and paralyze action. The Stoic method teaches us to hold these emotions at arm's length, to observe them as passing phenomena rather than absolute realities. By doing so, we reclaim our center. Epictetus counseled, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." In this lies the essence of empowerment. We may not command the winds, but we steer the rudder. Failure, then, is neither a verdict nor a sentence, but a call to deliberate action. As we cultivate this mindset, the fear of failure diminishes. It no longer shackles the spirit, but becomes a catalyst for daring. To fall forward is to move courageously, even when the path is uncertain, trusting that each stumble carries us closer to wisdom and mastery.
Moreover, the community forged in this shared endeavor strengthens us. Knowing that others walk this path, face similar trials, and rise again, instills a sense of solidarity. We are not alone in struggle, but part of a vast human tradition of resilience and growth. Each failure is a teacher, a stern yet faithful companion on the road. It strips away illusion, confronts us with reality, and demands a reckoning with our own limitations and potential. To reject it is to deny growth. To accept it is to embrace the fullness of life. So, in moments of defeat, pause and breathe deeply. Ground yourself in reason. Ask, what is within my power here? What can I learn? How can this strengthen my resolve? Let your answer be action, grounded in calm deliberation rather than rash reaction. In doing so, you embody the highest aim, to live not as a slave to circumstance, but as a sovereign of your own inner world. This sovereignty is the true measure of success, far beyond fleeting external triumphs. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Every failure is such an impediment, and thus every failure is the way itself. Walk it with courage, fall forward, rise stronger, and know that in this you fulfill the noblest purpose of the human spirit. The path of turning failure into power requires unwavering vigilance over the mind. It demands that we cultivate a kind of inner fortress, one where the storms of misfortune beat but cannot breach. This fortress is built not with bricks and mortar, but with reason, discipline, and the habit of reflection. It stands firm because it rests upon an unshakable foundation, the knowledge that true power lies not in external circumstance, but within the soul. Every failure invites us to peer inward, to examine not just what went wrong, but how we allowed it to unsettle us. Did we surrender to despair, or did we meet adversity with measured calm? Did we let bitterness take root, or did we nurture forgiveness toward ourselves and others? The quality of our response reveals the strength of our character. In this examination, there is no room for excuses. The wise recognize that blaming fate, others, or the world is a diversion from what truly matters, mastering oneself. No man is free, Epictetus taught, who is not master of himself. Freedom is not a gift from fortune. It is the fruit of self-control. And what of the emotions that rise with failure? Anger, shame, regret. These are natural, yet dangerous if left unchecked. They obscure the clarity of thought needed to learn and grow. They are the tempests that threaten to capsize the ship. We must learn to greet these emotions with acceptance, but not attachment, observing them without surrender. This is the art of apatheia, not the absence of feeling, but the mastery over destructive passions. It is a calmness born not of indifference, but of wisdom, a tranquil strength that endures through hardship. To cultivate this, one must practice constant self-awareness. Begin each day by setting your intention, to meet whatever comes with equanimity, to respond with reason, to seek opportunity in every setback. When failure arrives, as it inevitably will, recall the truth that it is neither good or evil, but simply an event, a fact of life.
What matters is your judgment of it and your choice of response. Seneca reminds us we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Often, the fear of failure is greater than failure itself. The mind creates a narrative of defeat that poisons our courage before the battle even begins. This is why the mind must be disciplined, trained to distinguish between what is imagined and what is real, between what we control and what we do not. This discipline is not a sudden revelation, but a lifelong exercise. It requires daily reflection, honest self-inquiry, and the humility to accept where we fall short. Yet in this acceptance lies our power. When we acknowledge our faults without shame, we open the door to genuine transformation. And transformation is the essence of falling forward. It means that failure is not an endpoint, but a gateway. Each failure is a crack in the shell of illusion, revealing the possibility of growth beneath. Remember the story of the philosopher who, upon losing everything, said, "I have lost nothing but my chains." What are these chains but the illusions that bind us to fear and despair? Failure breaks these illusions and frees us to build anew. Do not shy away from failure as though it were a curse. Rather, welcome it as a stern teacher whose lessons are harsh but invaluable. Reflect on the setbacks not with self-recrimination, but with gratitude, for they bring clarity and strength. As you do this, you join a long line of seekers who have walked this path before. Their wisdom echoes through the ages, urging us to endure, to persevere, and to transform. This lineage is not mere history. It is a living tradition that calls us now to embody its teachings. To fall forward is to understand that power resides not in never failing, but in how we rise after falling. It is the courage to face life fully, to meet its challenges with a steady heart, and to cultivate a resilience that no adversity can break. This is the Stoic method, to make failure not a mark of defeat, but a step toward mastery, to turn every obstacle into a stepping stone, and to find within ourselves a source of strength that no external force can extinguish. Hold fast to this truth. Let it guide you through the darkest moments. In the embrace of failure, discover your truest power. And with each fall, rise not as a victim, but as a victor, stronger, wiser, and unshakable.